Hello, true believers! Have you ever tried writing a high-level D&D adventure and felt like you were wrangling superheroes? By level 20, characters are practically gods, making challenge design a Herculean task. Now imagine balancing a level 16 wizard with a level 6 fighter archer on the same team. That is the kind of challenge that we're diving into today with the new Marvel Multiverse RPG. Thanks to Marvel for providing us with the book and the digital assets for us to review. I'll break down the mechanics, the content, and help you decide if this is a game that's right for your table, so let's swing into action. Today's video is brought to you by Hit Point Press. The deck of many animated 5e reference cards can bring even more magic to your games, and they make fantastic gifts. Get animated spell cards, condition cards, or townsfolk NPCs. You can even get in-game items like the Deck of Illusions and the Deck of Many Things. Get your deck of many animated cards using the info icon in the corner or in the doohickey down below. First off, let's talk about the core mechanics of the game. If you're familiar with D&D, this game is going to be somewhat less mechanically complex. Checks are resolved using what they call the D616 system, an homage to Marvel's Prime Universe. You roll 3d6, with one die being the special Marvel die. If you don't have the official dice, just use a unique d6 from your stash. Add your ability modifier to the roll and compare it to the target number, which is similar to the DC in 5e. So let's talk about that special Marvel die. If the Marvel die comes up with the Marvel side, which is the one side up, then you get a fantastic result and consider it a 6. If the total meets or beats the target number, or TN, then you get a fantastic success. You accomplish what you were trying to do, and you get an extra benefit, be that double damage or something else as suggested by the player or the narrator, which is what we call our Game Master in this game. If you have that Marvel logo come up on your Marvel die but still fail on the overall check, then you get a fantastic failure. You fail to accomplish your goal, but something else occurs that pushes the narrative along. Maybe they whiff on their massive punch and they tumble onto the ground, but they find a cache of weapons under the table. In D&D, you sometimes get granted advantage or disadvantage on a roll due to the circumstances of the moment. In the Marvel games, you get edges and troubles. If the narrator thinks that you have an advantage in the situation, or if you have an ability or an item that grants it to you, you get an edge on the roll and you get to re-roll one of your 3 dice and take the better results. You can even get double or triple edges if you're really killing it, getting to re-roll the dice multiple times. On the other hand, if you have a disadvantage situation, you'll get a trouble on the roll, in which case you'll have to re-roll your best result and take the worst of the 2, and the Marvel side up on the Marvel die is always considered the top best result. And edges and troubles can cancel each other out as well. Let's talk about combat. You can either play using Theater of the Mind, where everyone just uses their imagination for positioning and movement, or you can use a gridded map, either square or hex. There's a lot of vertical movement when it comes to superheroes, and instead of having to always bust out Pythagorean's theorem just to calculate movement, just determine how many spaces they want to move horizontally and vertically in a turn, and use whichever number is higher to determine the length of the move. I love that simplification. And folks will have different movement speeds for running and climbing and flying and swimming and all of that. Now, if you're curious about your options for minis, see my section on accessories later in this video using the timeline down below me or the timestamps in the doohickey below that. Now, I'm going to assume that you're at least somewhat familiar with the D&D combat system. Battles here also start with an initiative roll, and all the characters have a dedicated initiative modifier. If you get a fantastic result, you get essentially a surprise round. Each turn, everyone gets an action and a movement. You can take your action before, during, or after your movement. You also get a reaction each round. Like D&D, you can delay your turn, and you can hold an action until something happens. Your standard actions include attacking and dodging, escaping, grabbing, helping, taking another move, or using a power. A dodge action imposes a trouble on the attack against you. An escape action lets you try to get out of that grapple or whatever effect is holding you down. A help action gives an ally an edge on their check or attack. You have some fun standard options for reactions as well. You can attempt to escape a grab. You can do a fastball special that lets you hurl a character across the room. If you know, you know. You can interpose yourself against an attack on an adjacent ally as well. You can ram an opponent that you double move toward in a straight line, and you can essentially grab someone next to you and pull them in front of you to take an attack meant for you. Movement has its own special sets of rules for things like gliding and swing lining, teleporting, and things like that, but the rules for all of that is pretty streamlined. There's also rules for difficult terrain and taking falling damage. Dealing damage is very interesting. You don't roll the dice again when you make a hit, like you do in D&D and Pathfinder. Instead, you apply a multiplier to the result of the check's marble die. The multiplier is usually the rank or the level of the character. So for example, She-Hulk is rank 4. She also has an ability called Mighty 4, which adds a 4 to her multiplier for melee damage. On top of that, she has a melee score of +5, which is added in at the end. So if she punches some fool and gets a 2 on her marble die, she multiplies that by 8. 4 from her rank and 4 from her Mighty 4 ability for a total of 16, and then she adds in that 5 from her melee score for a total of 21 damage. You can dish out 2 types of damage, physical and focus, and we'll talk about focus in just a bit. Now you can't stack those multiplier bonuses, so if She-Hulk has a pair of brass knuckles that added a 2 to her multiplier, it wouldn't have an effect because her Mighty 4 ability adds more, so we'll just take that instead. You just take the best multiplier modifier. There's also items and abilities that give you damage reductions to lower the amount of incoming damage. Also, any character that has the heroic tag, and more about tags later, won't kill a target by default. All their attacks will leave an enemy with 1 hit point. And you can use all sorts of weapons that add to your multiplier bonus and have different ranges and special effects. And you don't have to worry about ammunition and reloading. And there are conditions like bleeding, blinded, deafened, ablaze, prone, and pretty much what you're used to from D&D. Now, one of the more fun things you can do in combat is a team maneuver. And I won't go into all the details, but when you start a mission, you decide amongst yourselves if you want an offensive, defensive, or rally team maneuver. Then during combat, if you're positioned correctly, have the focus points, and you all employ it, depending on the average rank of the team members, you'll get benefits like edges on attacks and damage resistance and troubles on attacks against you. And finally, there are rules about using the environment in your combat, from grabbing a car to hurl at your enemy to smashing through a building. Ultimately, combat in the Marvel RPG should be more streamlined and quicker than your average mid-level D&D fight. You won't be rolling as many dice, and there are less variables to consider, though there is multiplication involved. So take that extra time and devote it to sharing the narrative about your combat actions. Your Marvel RPG encounters are going to live and die on how much the people at your table put into setting the scene and describing your actions cinematically, though that's true for all these games we play. Otherwise, it just turns into a bunch of people sitting around the table doing their taxes, though I think this game will fall less into that trap. So, we need to look at character creation and character sheets to see if they're able to reflect the vast differences between characters like Ant-Man and Mysterio and Hela and Thor and Venom. So let's take Peter Parker Spider-Man as an example. The rank score there is their overall power from 1 to 6. For example, Night Nurse and a generic shield agent are a 1. Okoye and Nick Fury are 2s, Ms. Marvel and Luke Cage are 3s, Spider-Man and Iron Man are a 4, Loki and Doctor Doom are 5s, and Captain Marvel and Thanos are a 6. Karma is like hero points in Pathfinder. You can use them for rerolls, regaining health or focus, among other things. It is equal to your rank. Then you've got your health, which is just your resilience times 30. Focus is described as your capacity for concentration and willpower. And I tend to think of it rather like a combination of sanity from games like Call of Cthulhu and mana, because it's what you're going to use to fuel your powers. Your focus is your vigilance times 30. Then you have your speed in different situations, plus your initiative modifier, in this case plus 3E. The plus 3 is from his vigilance, and the E means he has an edge on his roll, which comes from his spider sense power. Starting on the left-hand side here, we have our ability scores: melee, agility, resilience, vigilance, ego, and logic, which, funny coincidence, spell out Marvel. They map pretty well onto the D&D scores that you know: strength, dex, con, wisdom, charisma, and intelligence, respectively. The number of ability points that you have is equal to your rank times 5, and the cap for each score is your rank plus 3. So at rank 1, you can have at most a 4 in each ability, but at rank 6, each one can go up to 9. Then you have your defense scores, which are the target numbers enemies have to roll to get the better of you in direct contests, and your non-combat check modifiers for convenience, which takes into account your other abilities. Below that is your damage multipliers and modifiers for different kinds of attacks. Then you've got your traits and tags, which come from your backstory, which in this game is your origins and your occupations. Traits have a mechanical effect, tags just have a narrative effect. Some sample origins that you can choose from are Alien Kree, or Alien Scroll, or High-Tech Battlesuit, or High-Tech Pym Particles, or Magic, or Symbiote, or Mutant, or Inhuman. There are 30 in the book, if I counted correctly, and you can make up your own. They each come with tags, traits, and sometimes powers. Now, even superheroes seem to have a 9-to-5 job, so your occupation is something like educator, assassin, lawyer, tycoon, or journalist. Not YouTuber, unfortunately. They also come with traits and tags, and of course you can also make up your own occupation, like YouTuber, if none of the other ones included seem to fit your situation. Okay, so traits. These are the ones with a gameplay implication. So let's go back to Spider-Man and take a look at some of his. Audience means that a lot of people out there are interested in Spider-Man and follow him on Instagram. With this trait, Spider-Man can make an ego check to get help or information from the crowd. Combat reflexes grants him an extra reaction per round. Connection sources means that, as a journalist, Peter has some contacts out there that he can get information or resources from, with a successful ego check, that is. And free running means that he has an edge on agility checks to perform acrobatics during his movement action. I will leave you to discover the other traits, but you get the idea. Tags are for your narrative, for the most part, and they're pretty self-explanatory. There may be things in the adventure that interact with certain tags as well. Finally, we need to look at powers, and of course, this is where the real fun comes in. You get 4 powers per rank. So at rank 4 here, Peter gets 16 base powers. Powers fall into different categories, or power sets as they're called. You've got sets like elemental control, illusion, magic, martial arts, melee weapons, omniversal travel, phasing, super speed, plasticity, and of course, spider powers, among many others. Some are further broken down into subcategories, like magic can be either chaotic, cursed, or sorceress. Powers often have prereqs. For example, you can't take Control Weather 4, which lets you create a huge storm that interferes with ranged attacks and movement, until you're rank 5 and already have Control Weather 3. So what's keeping you from dipping into all the power pools if you want to? Well, first of all, those power trees are encouraging you to take the lower level powers first to get the connected higher power ones later, but also you get bonus powers from keeping your total number of power sets low. If you use power from fewer sets than your rank, you get that many extra powers. Spider-Man, for example, has basic powers, which is not a set, and powers from the spider set, so it's just one set. At rank 4, we subtract that one and from that one power set, and he gets 3 extra powers, so he can have 19 instead of the usual 16. If you want to dip into all the power sets, there's nothing stopping you, but you'll forego those extra bonus powers. You can also trade power picks for extra ability points or traits on a 1-to-1 basis if you want to. And if you're worried about heroes being nerfed for the sake of gameplay balance, I don't think that's really a problem here. You can time travel at rank 3. You can telepathically possess people at rank 5. At rank 3, you can run 50 times your listed speed when outside of combat. You can steal all the powers from another character rogue style at rank 4. It's nuts. And there's more than 50 pages worth of powers in here. Here's a quick listing of all the powers in the book currently for each of the power sets, along with their prereqs. Now, of course, there are other details like ranges and duration and stacking powers, breaking concentration, spending focus, and I'm going to leave all that for you to discover, but I think this should give you the gist on how to make your own heroes and play the ones that are included in the book. And that's basically what you need to know about characters in this game. Let's talk about the rest of the book now. First, this book is well put together, well edited, and easy to read. I've been looking through some books lately with weird font choices and lower quality paper for the pages, all sorts of stuff. Making a good looking book is harder than you think it is, and Marvel did a good job here. Along with everything we've talked about so far, you also get more than 130 heroes and villains that are ready to play. The only thing I don't like about the character sheets here is that they are condensed, and they don't include all the information you need to play them. If you want to use Venom as your big bad, you can't really run him off the character sheet alone. You'll have to be able to look up the gameplay mechanics for each power and trait. Now that's true for all the games we play really. In D&D, you don't get all the spell details for each character right in the stat block, but in this game, every character is going to have a dozen and things to look up to be able to play them efficiently. If you're playing this around a table in person, you really need a deck of reference cards for the powers and traits, and a great GM screen, or a narrator screen in this case, I guess. Those will all be really handy, and as far as I can tell, Marvel doesn't really have their own screen or card packs just yet, unfortunately, though I am told that they are coming. There is an enterprising player on Reddit who has made printable sets of power cards that you can use at home. I don't really know quite where this falls on the legality side of things, but it's been available to the public for a couple months on the subreddit, so if you do want to print out some cards for your own personal use, I'll put that link for you down below. Now, the rest of the book, you get a small chapter on the state of the multiverse as it is right now, so you can have some setting information. You also get 30 or so pages of narrator information on running the game, from the basics of just playing RPGs in general, to creating new superpowers and running social encounters and things like that. They also run through some player safety information, like how to safely run mind control and memory loss situations in your game with player consent, because that can be kind of sensitive. They also walk you through a bit how to handle things like time travel, which is super tricky in RPGs. Dealing with ranks can be tough too, because these heroes get really powerful really quickly. While there may be level ups in your campaigns, this may not be the game for you if that progression fantasy is what drives you. Adventures will probably have level caps. Or in this case, I guess rank caps. Think about the adventures that Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Iron Fist go on, and how they would be affected if you filled out that party with Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel. As long as your party falls within maybe 2 ranks of each other, like ranks 3 and 4 or 4 and 5, you're probably going to be okay though. There's also guidance on killing characters, resurrecting characters, and playing in a multiversal setting. And the book gives you the basics of writing satisfying adventures as well. It doesn't include a sample adventure to get you started though. But that brings us to our next topic, free and paid resources that can enhance your game. There are quite a few free resources available to expand your game on the official website, marvel.com/RPG. First, there's a short sample adventure called Enter Hydra to get you started. They also have a rules errata and a rules FAQ, and there are a few extra downloadable characters as well, including Prowler and Crystal. There's also a document called Tony's Workshop, which is like playtest materials. It's like Unearthed Arcana for D&D, you D&D folks out there. And at the time of this recording, they're testing things like new advancement rules to bring a little bit more of that progression treadmill back into the game. They're also tinkering with some of the numbers to keep things balanced and introducing a way to quickly generate henchmen for your players to beat up on. So if you're curious about changes coming to the core game, that's where you can find them. Also, if you've been enjoying the X-Men 97 show, they've released character sheets for that particular X-Men team for free. The link is also in the doohickey down below. Now, like I said, what this game really needs sooner rather than later is reference cards and a narrator screen. I'm kind of shocked that these don't exist yet, but it looks like Marvel is outsourcing some of those types of items to Cool Mini or Not, the board game and miniature game company behind Zombicide and a ton of other games. I have several CMON games here on the shelf behind me. Right now on GameFound, you can find a project for a Marvel Multiverse RPG Deluxe Starter Set. It contains a condensed rule set, pre-gen characters, a short 24-page adventure called Escape from Planet Hulk, a powers booklet for looking up all those superpowers, 6 acrylic minis of Storm, Captain America, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Black Widow, Black Panther, and the X-23 Wolverine, 4 sets of official dice, which are apparently larger than normal dice, 50 plus cardboard tokens for the characters in the included adventure, some maps for the adventure, and yes, reference cards, though I believe that these are tied to the same 6 characters from before, so I don't know if it's comprehensive. You can also add on some more 2D acrylic mini sets. It seems like there are 10 mediums and a large for about 13 to 15 bucks, so a wee bit expensive compared to other 2D mini sets out there, though they do look very nice in the pictures. All of this is up for pre-order right now and is scheduled to ship in November, I believe. The deluxe package is 30 bucks, which is pretty good, though keep in mind that it doesn't come with the core rulebook here, and apparently the included 2D minis, the power cards, and the nice printed character sheets for those heroes are a pre-order exclusive. Maybe they'll be bundled and sold separately later on. It wasn't super clear, but it definitely seems like a nice set to have if you are planning to jump into this game. And if you're looking for minis, there are a few options out there. You've got the Marvel HeroClix line from WizKids. There are even some unpainted ones out there if you want to get creative. There are minis in the Marvel miniature game by Atomic Mass Studios. The one currently out there is called Crisis Protocol, and it looks pretty good in the pictures I've seen. Hell, I think it'd be fun to use these like little Lego minifigs if you want to. They have a lot of Marvel ones too. They fit pretty well on your standard grid. Also, there are some great sets available on Roll20 for those of you who like to play online. You can get the core rulebook bundle, which comes with the digital core rulebook and an art pack of like 1,000 tokens and art, plus tokens for various conditions and powers in the game, a preview of the Cataclysm of Kang full adventure, and the free Enter Hydra intro adventure, all for $30. They also have an adventure specifically built for Roll20 called Revenge of the Super Skrull for $20. If you want to play this game online, Roll20 is going to be the place to do that. There is a full adventure out there now called Cataclysm of Kang. I haven't seen it myself, but it includes 6 linked adventures from levels 1 to 6, respectively, and you can play a new hero at each rank or just level up your own character as you go. It comes with, I think, about 50 to 60 new characters, including Sam Wilson, Captain America, Cloak and Dagger, Colleen Wing, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Ironheart, Jean Grey, Kang, Lockjaw, Maria Hill, Medusa, Nova, Silver Surfer, and Spider-Woman. On July 17th, Marvel is launching a one-shot adventure called Deadpool Roleplays the Marvel Universe, which features an original comic story and a one-shot adventure. I freaking love the cover here. And the comic story is written by Cullen Bunn, who wrote Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. And finally, there's an X-Men expansion coming out on August 7th with new traits, new powers, plus lots of new characters from the X-Men, X-Force, New Mutants, and Marauders, and maps for iconic locations like Xavier Institute and Krakoa. I don't think there's an adventure included, but there are going to be a lot of adventure hooks to get you going. And there's a rather mysterious project out there called the S.H.I.E.L.D. Dossier. We don't know much about it yet. Marvel wouldn't really tell me much about it, but some of the store listings mention a narrator screen and tokens, so color me very intrigued. It is criminal that we don't have a narrator screen yet. Seriously. Finally, let's see if we can figure out if this is a good game for your tables. Let's talk about all the great stuff first. I think they nailed character creation. When you look through the character sheets and you look at the powers available to you, you can pretty well approximate most superheroes out there. And building your own character is pretty easy and fun, though it may take you some time. They have a tool system on Demiplane Nexus that's really intuitive and looks beautiful and is really fun to use. It has all the power and trait descriptions right at your fingertips, which solves the problem of needing to flip through the book or print yourself out some reference cards. You can also track your health and your focus, and it can roll for you and do all the math, so you don't miss out on any bonuses that you might have overlooked. The book itself is high quality, well designed, well organized, easy to read and reference, and the art throughout the book is great. I don't know how much of it is original art for the RPG, but it's all consistent and looks really good. It's not like Marvel is lacking in art assets. I think the basic combat system works well and facilitates pretty quick turnaround in your rounds, which goes a very long way in keeping your players engaged. And it just feels unique with the 3-dice system. You just need to roll 3d6s and you are good to go. Also, the information that's given to the narrator in the book to help them craft and run adventures is pretty substantial and helpful. As far as potential downsides, this might still be a bit complex for players new to role-playing games. People are going to want to jump in and play their favorite characters like Iron Man and Ms. Marvel and Black Panther, and they're going to have a lot of abilities and powers to go through. And they'll be flipping back and forth between the pages to look up all those powers and the traits, and it is going to be overwhelming. But there's not a lot of fun in picking a character at rank 1 to get started unless you're itching to play as AIM Agent number 3 or Hand Ninja Carl. I wonder if providing lower rank main character sheets might be helpful for new players, like Year 1 variants, like Year 1 Spider-Man or Year 1 Iron Man, things like that. I am going to test this out though. I am planning to put together a few players and run through either Enter Hydra or the Revenge of the Super Skrull adventure on Roll20, and I'm also going to try to pull in someone from my Blood on the Clock Tower group who has very little TTRPG experience and see how it goes. The plan is to release that playthrough to you, so stay tuned for that. Now, players are also having some debates online about game balance issues between certain power sets, which honestly isn't shocking for new games like this. You'll definitely want to go to the webpage to get all the rules errata before you play. Hopefully the errata will be incorporated into the hardcover on the next print run. It also feels like the game might be a little overly focused on combat, and of course superhero stories are often very combat heavy, but I would like to see more of an emphasis going forward on other aspects of storytelling, whether that be exploration or detective work or social encounters or just straight up problem solving. Finally, there can be some funkiness around the scaling at different ranks, especially when you have players with characters at different ranks in the same party. And like I said, if you play games for the progression of your character, this may not be the game for you. There's no XP mechanic, there's not a ton of fanciful loot to find. Your character at the end of an adventure is probably not going to be substantially different than they were at the start. So I worry about long-term campaign play with the same character. I'm worried it could get a little bit dull. So this may be a game that you'll do with more short-term stories. Ultimately, the Marvel Multiverse RPG is a fun, streamlined game that allows TTRPG fans to jump into the boots of their favorite Marvel characters and have some fun action adventures. It may not lend itself to year-long campaigns, but I think you'll enjoy being able to play Iron Man for a few weeks, and then start a fresh adventure as Scarlet Witch, and then do a street-level adventure as Echo. And now that more pre-written adventures and expansions are starting to come out, things are looking pretty rosy for the future of this game. CMON is a pretty solid choice for a partner as they put out high-quality products, including minis, hint hint Marvel. The core rulebook is available now for between $30 and $60 in hardcover. You can also pick it up on Demiplane and Roll20. If you played the game, I would love to hear how you feel about it in the comment section down below. There are, of course, quite a few other superhero RPGs out there. If you have favorites, let me know what they are down below. I am definitely wanting to expand my horizons a little bit and share some new games with you this year. Also, feel free to leave any questions for me down below, and I'll do my best to track down the information for you. In the meantime, if you're a D&D fan and you want some amazing reference cards, you know I love reference cards, check out the Hit Point Press store for their animated spells and condition cards, among many beautiful others. And during the Imperfect sale, you can get them for a massive discount. For the latest news on minis and terrain and other TTRPG essentials, you can follow us on YouTube and on the sites over here. For now, though, please stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.